Okay, we are officially getting started. I would like to let everyone know that Officer McElwee generally starts off our meetings. He is going to be late this evening, and I have told him that when he comes into the meeting, we will finish up the item that we are working on, and we will immediately let him speak. The first item for us today is to approve the agenda, and I'm going to ask Brad if he can pull up the document in OneNote for us, please. Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve this agenda with to approve this agenda. Is there a second?
I object.
Commissioners?
I object to this because there was no, on the Foxhall Elementary Buttery School timeline from Commissioner Nowak, this was not placed on the agenda 7 days before. In fact, it was slipped onto the agenda on Sunday in violation of our normal rules. Our normal
So
rules.
Commissioner Simkowitz, point of order here. I would like to discuss the agenda, and then I would like you to bring that up as an amendment.
No, it's not an amendment. We have to vote on it even being on this agenda because it was not properly placed on the agenda.
Okay, so the motion on the floor that I have here is that we approve this agenda. Do I have a second?
Commissioner,
and then we can have an amendment to remove it.
No, it shouldn't have been on there in the first place.
Commissioner Duncan, I will second your motion.
Thank you. We are now under discussion. Would you like to make an amendment, Commissioner Simkowitz?
Well, this topic should not even have been on the agenda. When was this agenda item placed, Chairman Duncan?
Right now, we are talking about approving this agenda, and you would like, it is my understanding that you would like something removed from the agenda.
But
so in order for us to do that, in Robert's rules of order, the commissioner sets the agenda. I went through the bylaws. I can add things at the last minute. We can take things on and put them off. We're discussing the agenda. Would you like to make an amendment to remove this item from the agenda?
This should have been done as an amendment to the agenda, as has been our practice for the entire 3 terms that I've been on this ANC. You have the burden of placing it on the agenda, not me taking it off.
It is on the agenda because I get to set the agenda.
Why do you get to set the agenda?
Because I'm the chair.
When it's something that's placed on there on 48 hours notice, it normally, under our practice, has been that this agenda item would go on as an amendment, which everybody could discuss and discuss.
Point of order. Someone needs to make an amendment if we're going to discuss the removal of this item from the agenda. Would another commissioner like to do that?
I'll make the motion to remove this from the agenda.
Is there a second? Okay, the item is on the agenda.
Madam Chairman, I would like to address the issue, however.
I would like to have a discussion too, so I was hoping someone would second. I'll second the amendment. I will second the amendment. Let's have a discussion about why this is on here now, and do we want to table it for next thing? Go ahead. You have the floor, Commissioner Elkin.
Well, we do have a practice, as I think Commissioner Simkowitz has indicated in the past. I'm not sure whether it is mandatory, but we've had a practice that we set the agenda the Wednesday night ahead of the meeting. That is required by the statute as a draft, and then we can amend it at the beginning of the meeting, which of course is where we are now. We're making this discussion, having this discussion. There are times, and I'm going to be making a recommendation later to add an item to the agenda having to do with repaving of New Mexico Avenue, which I think is non-controversial. I think when it comes to issues where we know that neighbors may or will have different points of view, I do think there's a strong principle here of giving full notice to our neighbors so that everybody can be here and can participate and have an opportunity to indicate to commissioners how they would like them to vote on the issue. In this case, I am torn because I recognize Commissioner Nowak's desire to have this information brought to the attention of the council while they are still considering the budget. And we didn't know about the mayor's budget until at the earliest, the 22nd of March. And I think, in fact, the information about the elementary school was a lot later than that coming to our attention. Having examined the mayor's budget, it's very hard to figure out what's in it. So I am sympathetic to keeping it on the agenda, but with the recognition that this is really an exception, I think we need to have information, issues like this go on the agenda at the last minute or in between, in rare cases. In this case, I think that the letter as is now being proposed by the commissioner does not raise a lot of issues that might involve my constituents, for instance. And so I'm not as worried that they were not adequately informed, perhaps, of this meeting. So if we do go ahead with this being on the agenda, I would ask that we recognize it as a one-time exception based on simply the timing of the budget, and that we try to avoid issues like this, which are controversial, going on at the last minute. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you for those comments. Would anyone else like to weigh in?
Well, I'd like to ask some questions about to Commissioner Nowak. Was this letter circulated on any listserv?
The letter was published on the ANC website and
When?
on the listserv. Well, the earlier version was published over the weekend, and then
No, not over the weekend, on Sunday. Is that correct?
well, where I come
That's
from,
the
Sunday is
weekend.
part of the weekend, but okay, on Sunday.
And Sunday is 48 hours from now. Is that correct?
I don't know
Yes,
the
the answer
time
is
that
yes.
it was posted, but yes,
Okay.
I will stipulate that 48 hours. The alternative to Mr. Simkowitz would be to have added it today
Correct.
at the beginning of the meeting,
Which is the proper
which would then
procedure.
result in the hue and cry that nobody had notice that it was going onto the agenda. I suspect that there will be community members who are on the call today, specifically because this was noticed. Commissioner Joseph published a second notice on Sunday saying, make sure that you know that this is out there. And yes, 48 hours is not 7 days. We are all in agreement on that fact. But the alternative being that I added it to the agenda at 7 p.m. today, and your head would have exploded. So please tell me.
Why wasn't this done 7 days before?
Okay,
You knew the facts.
We just established
I'm
that
gonna
because the mayor's budget was not available 7 days before.
This is also a point of order. You may speak. We do not grill each other in discussions.
It's a discussion,
say
Commissioner
your
Duncan.
piece. You're questioning.
Yeah, I've got a questions for the commissioner because she brought it up. And this is a position that is vitally important to my constituents and hers, by the way, who used to be my constituents on the other side of Foxhall Road. Vitally important to everyone in my neighborhood. We care about it. And Commissioner Elkins might be right.
Point of order related to Parliament rules.
His people might not care about it.
Thank you, Jeremy.
However, my people do.
Commissioner Joseph has the floor. Thank you, Jeremy.
I was speaking.
He had a point of order, and I'm giving it to him.
Point of order, according to Robert's rules, it's just improper to address fellow commissioners, right?
Correct.
Just as my role in the secretary, I'm not the parliamentarian, but I'm going to say it's improper to address fellow commissioners. And so we by the chair.
Commissioner Simkowitz, Robert's Rules of Order. If you have questions, they're presented to me, and then I call on other people for answers. You may not grill your other commissioners.
The chair has been actively hostile
Would you like
to me and my constituents. And as a result, I have the right to ask the proponent of this measure.
No, you're not.
questions.
Not in Robert's Rules of Order, and that's how we're running this meeting. Would you like to ask me a question and I could find an answer for you?
I have no further questions about the timing of this. I do have questions about the substance, which I will ask if my motion is denied. So
Okay,
therefore,
the
I
motion
move-
on the,
And I think we should
Go
open it up to community. Community might want to make some comments, and I ask that you ask community comment.
we are not taking community comments to approve our agenda. This is
That is-
commissioner business.
No, this
And
is
it's not official.
it's-
It's not
it's-
official business. It's commission business.
The community has a right to speak about the timing of this and the ability to have this placed on the agenda. The community has a right to
Denied.
speak, and I asked for a vote of the entire commission, ANC3D. Everyone in ANC3D denying my constituents the right to speak about this topic.
It's commission business, chairman's thing. Would you like to call the question?
I do.
Okay, the motion on the floor is an amendment to the agenda to remove the Foxhall School from the agenda. I think we should call the roll. Bradley, you can start with 7 if you'd like. Come down. We don't always have to start with Chuck. Commissioner Elkin, sorry.
3D07,
Aye.
3D06,
No,
3D05.
No,
Just to confirm, no.
no,
3D04,
No,
3D03,
no,
3D02,
No,
3D01,
No,
the amendment passes. I would like to, what was the vote count? 6-1?
I think the amendment failed.
amendment failed.
The
Yeah,
amendment
I'm
wasn't
sorry.
to
The
remove it.
amendment, sorry. The amendment failed. I'm very sorry. Thank you. We are moving on. The motion on the floor now is to approve the agenda. Do we have any additions?
Madam Chairman, I do have an addition.
Go ahead.
We have a resolution I'd like to put on the table for us to consider asking the Department of Transportation to repave the New Mexico Avenue street before they put in the bike lane.
Without objection, I'll take that as a friendly amendment.
Second?
So added. And then I think I am going to also amend the agenda to include the approval of the Marine Corps Marathon route. Any objection? All right, that's taken as a friendly amendment. I would also like to go back to the OneDrive so that we can see the order that we have agreed on. All right, does anyone have any objection to the order of the items?
Madam Chairman, do we have the paving of New Mexico on there? I don't think we do, of course, because it was not, or do we? Let's see.
We do, it's
Sorry,
right
yes,
there. It's
thank you.
right,
Thank you,
it's
ma'am.
right under the NOI.
Yes, thank you.
And the Marine Corps Marathon is second to last. Okay. I'm calling the question. All those in favor to approve this agenda, raise your hand. All those opposed? 1, the motion passes. Okay, we are moving on to our community liaisons. And I am skipping Officer McElwee. I don't believe he's on yet. And we are going to the mayor's liaison. Matthew Barclay is not with us today. And I think Theodore Wynn, if we can promote him to a spotlight. Hello, welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm Theo Ring, your Ward 3 Mocha, the other half of your Ward 3 Mocha. I'm filling in for Matthew at this time. I currently don't have any updates. He was supposed to leave me a couple of updates because we share wards, so I don't know what's going on his side of the ward, and he don't know what's going on my side of the ward. So we come together sometime, but he never really gave me any updates. I just want to introduce myself. So if anyone have any questions or any concerns, feel free to reach out.
I would like to add that I spoke with Matthew Barclay today, and he wants ANC3D to know that next month at our meeting, people from DC government will be at our meeting to discuss the budget. And we are going to be graced with the head of DDOT, Everett Lott, and the Chancellor of DC Public Schools, Chancellor Farabee. It's my understanding they will both be at the meeting next month to discuss the budget. We will widely advertise that. So we hope that people come with their questions or submit questions ahead of time so that they can come with some answers.
And I can confirm that they will be.
Okay. Maybe you could drop your info in the chat so everyone has it. It's good to know that we've got 2 Ward 3 Mokers.
Thank you, I will do.
All right, thank you. I see that Officer McElwee has joined the meeting, so I would like to call him next, unless you need a few more minutes. There you are, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry that I'm running late. Thank you, commissioners, for having us, and good evening, everyone, including everyone that's participating in the Zoom meeting. I'm Anthony McElwee, your traffic officer, and I'm going to present the crime and traffic stats. I'm going to start with the crime reports. I'm happy to say that our crime is down in the last 30 days. However, we still didn't escape every crime. We had 6 thefts and 4 thefts from automobiles. I'll start with the 4 theft from automobiles. 2 of those thefts were involving construction workers or contractors that were working at private residences within your neighborhoods. They're breaking into these trucks and they're stealing equipment. If you have a contractor scheduled to come to your house, let them know, please, that we've had some thefts involving contractors, and to lock their equipment up in their vehicles. And if it's all possible, try and park the vehicle within close proximity to where they're working so they can keep an eye on their vehicles. The other 2 are regular theft from automobiles. These folks are driving around or walking through the neighborhoods and they're looking into the vehicles, and if they see things in plain view, even for example, if it's a backpack, they don't know what it is. It's kind of like they're rolling the dice. If the vehicle's not locked, they'll break the window and they'll take the items from inside the vehicle. So please remove all your personal valuables from the vehicle. This is a preventable crime, because if they don't see anything in there, they're going to move on. Just from what we're experiencing. The 6 thefts, I'll just touch on 3 of them. We had 3 separate thefts that involved multiple juveniles in a vehicle. One of the incidents occurred at the CVS at 4859 MacArthur Boulevard. They jumped out of the vehicle. They ran inside the CVS, and quickly and swiftly they were in and out, and they stole $800 of merchandise, jumped in the car and took off. Our detectives are looking at videos, trying to make connections with suspects. So we had 2 other situations involving that, but that's the one down there nearest, in your neck of the woods in MacArthur Boulevard. Moving into traffic, we did not have any serious accidents, which I'm happy to put out there. We did target several locations, MacArthur Boulevard, Foxhall Road and Reservoir Road. If you're not familiar with that, that's one of our biggest areas that we received numerous complaints about folks going straight in a left turn only lane. So I issued 21 tickets out there last month. Also, the cut throughs to avoid MacArthur and Arizona Avenue between the hours of 4 and 6:30, Monday through Friday. I know the residents back there many years ago petitioned for signs that are up and in place, advising folks they cannot cut through those neighborhoods. We have upped our patrols out there and our enforcement because of complaints. And we wrote, look at my stat, I wrote 19 infractions. What we're seeing out there is most of these folks are regular commuters. And then you got the ones that see them turn and like, oh, okay, I can get around this this Arizona and MacArthur, so they follow them through. When they see us out there, it stops the problem for at least a while until the next group comes through. So we're going to continue to stay out there. It has gotten better. Also, Wood Circle by Mass and Nebraska Avenue for the inner circle where they're turning from the inner circle. I wrote 16 tickets out there. And speeding enforcement, 3600 to 4800 block of Canal Road in the evening. Giving that special attention as well. One last thing, I believe it was last month's meeting, there was a resident or maybe even one of the commissioners had brought up that the crosswalk light was possibly malfunctioning at MacArthur and 48th Street. I did go out there and I checked it and it is working properly. So that's good news. And we're going to also kick off some crosswalk enforcement at that particular location as well, hopefully in April with the weather getting nicer. With that said, I'm happy to take any questions, concerns, complaints.
Commissioner Simkowitz. I think you're still muted.
Thank you for coming here today, Officer McElwee, as always, although our meeting did get moved up, so you didn't have the data that I asked for, so I'm going to provide it about carjacking. Carjacking has been 161 incidents of carjacking a year, and 73% of the incidents involved guns.
Point of order, Commissioner, Chairwoman.
Go ahead, Commissioner Joseph.
Commissioner Simkowitz is not asking a question. He's providing separate information.
That's correct. Because I am trying, there was information about the police statistics, and I asked Officer McElwee if he was prepared for that. And unfortunately, because he didn't know the meeting was today, he was not able to do that. So I'm going to provide that data for everyone on the citywide basis. And I can do that, Commissioner Duncan, on either this time or I can do it in my community updates, either one. But since
I think that's the appropriate question.
Since it involves crime, it's probably better situated for now.
I think we're going to do community for commissioner updates. You're welcome to do your crime statistics then. I think that would be more appropriate. I do have something that I heard from a constituent, Officer McElwee. This is over in Spring Valley, Rockwood Parkway, on the stretch that is wide and flat that I think leads to the Dale Carlia Parkway. Apparently there's some cut through traffic there during rush hour, and people are, I would love for someone to check it out to see if maybe there's some speeding there. The road is visually appealing to step on the gas, I think. So it would be nice. Do you know where this is?
I am very familiar with that, Commissioner Duncan. I'm going to put a request in to see if we can get one of our speed monitoring machines placed out there along Rockwood Parkway. Also, when you're saying about the cut throughs in the evening, I believe they're referring to you can't turn right from Rockwood Parkway onto Dale Carlia Parkway between 4 and 6:30. If that's starting to act up out there, I can go out there and certainly monitor that, and I'll jot down my stats and bring them back to you next meeting.
Thank you. Does anyone in the community have another question? All right, thank you. Next time there's an adjustment, instead of sending that email to you, I'll make sure I flag it for you via text too.
No worries. Also, I'm gonna put in the chat box my email address for everybody that's listening. We do provide vacation checks. I like to put that out there at every meeting. So if you do go away on vacation, please feel free to email me. And I'll get through and check your house out while you're gone. And sometimes I even fire an email back to give you a peace of mind. And also one last thing, the Kias, they've been having that. If you come to the 2nd district and you live in the District of Columbia and you own a Kia, I believe it's between 2011 and a certain few years there, you can get a free club. If you're interested in that, please send me an email and I can link you up to Miss Branch and we can get you a club to protect your Kias and I believe a Hyundais. We've been having some thefts, so the city has provided at no cost these clubs that you put over your steering wheel. If you're interested, send me an email and I'll elaborate more. With that said, thanks for having us and stay safe. And one last thing, I will be at the Easter meeting, the Easter event this Saturday to show the kiddos the police vehicles. And please come out and see us. I'll be there for the entire event and look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
That's the PCA's extravaganza at Hardy Park from 10 to 11:30. Thank you. Commissioners, an astute resident has pointed out that we need to vote again to actually add the Foxhall Elementary letter to our agenda. So I am making a motion to add the Foxhall Elementary School letter to the agenda. Do I have a second? Commissioner Joseph seconds it. Any discussion?
Yes, I'm going to refrain from using the same speech that I gave before. I'm going to refrain from bothering everybody to hear it again, but the same position holds. This item should not be on the agenda, and I believe that it should be opened up to community contacts and discussion.
Noted. I would just
what does that mean, noted?
It's noted for the record. We've heard what you had to say.
Are you going to open it up for the discussion?
No, I do not believe that this is not content. This is an agenda. This is commission business. All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of adding Foxhall Elementary School letter to the agenda, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Bradley, please note that was 6-1. All right, moving on. Is someone here from Councilmember Fruman's office? I did not see Amy Sonnenberg.
Hey, I'm here. Stephen Palmer.
Oh, hello.
Hey, Commissioner,
Mr.
how's
Palmer.
it going?
Good. We are going to get you added here. Welcome.
Thank you. I am, we've actually, as we've been adding staff, thankfully, to the office, we've rejiggered a little bit our ANC assignments. So I will be joining you every month instead of Amy. Very happy to be here. Updates from the council member's office. I should introduce myself formally. I guess my name is Stephen Palmer. I'm Councilmember Fruman's legislative director. Since the last time I was here, Councilmember Fruman has introduced the Rent Stabilization Protection Amendment Act of 2023. You may have seen on Twitter. It's a bit of a wonky bill. I'm always happy to discuss further. Generally, it requires that housing vouchers abide by rent stabilization laws when being used in a rent stabilized unit as a way to allow rent stabilization and housing vouchers to kind of exist in harmony a bit better instead of existing in opposition as they do right now. I will drop, as always, in the chat our links to if you'd like to receive constituent service help or have any legislative suggestions. I'll drop a couple of links to our website to make that happen. And as always, I'm happy to discuss any questions about what's going on down at the council.
Thank you very much. I'm going to open it up to commissioner questions. Commissioner Simkowitz, you have your hand raised?
Yes. Mr. Palmer, has there been any outreach from anyone on ANC3D about the Hardy School resolution that we have today? The resolution was just updated this afternoon.
There very well may have been. I would not know about it. So I'm sorry, I can't answer the question.
Is there any Commissioner Duncan, has there been any outreach?
As soon as I saw the item on the budgets, on the mayor's budget graphics, and I heard about it, I did reach out to not Councilmember Fruman, but someone from their office.
And what was the result?
Noted, and then I said we may pass something on the ANC. This all happened very quickly. I didn't even know about that till the 25th of March.
So there was no discussion on the merits, is that correct? With Councilmember Fruman's office?
On the merit, I mean, I made my personal desires known, but obviously I wasn't speaking for ANC3D.
But the merits of the resolution, either in your personal capacity or in the capacity of the commission.
No, it was more one-way communication.
Okay, and that goes for every other commissioner here?
I have no obligation to answer your question, Commissioner Simkowitz.
I don't know how one discusses a resolution that hasn't been made yet. So that would be the way I would answer that question.
What was made on Sunday, Commissioner Nowak? And the question that I have for Commissioner Duncan is, did Commissioner Nowak have any substantive discussions about her resolution with anyone from the council member's office?
I don't know, and I think it's immaterial to where we are in this
I
question.
can't ask her directly, so I'm asking you, and you can ask her.
That's not how this parliamentary procedure goes. I mean, it has to be relevant to what we're talking about with Mr. Palmer. You're once again questioning the actions of your fellow commissioners. It's inappropriate.
Correct. Obviously, that's what I'm doing, because I'm just asked, was there communication with the council member's office?
Commissioner
Nobody
Duncan,
needs to answer that. Yes,
can I propose that this is a discussion that should happen at the time that the resolution is brought, not with outside parties? This is commission business, and you know, just it's worth a long time in the agenda.
Mr. Palmer is here now, and he can discuss things on behalf of the council member.
And Madam Chair, Mr. Palmer asked and answered. Asked and answered.
Asked and answered. Moving on. Commissioner Elkins, you have the floor.
Yes, Mr. Palmer, I'm really happy to see that you are now assigned to our ANC. I think you will find that this commission is very interested in what the council does, and in particular what Councilmember Fruman is advancing. And I would strongly encourage you personally, and I don't know whether my colleagues will second this, to brief us on what is going on in the council. I think not just the commissioners, but the public would be interested in that. And so I'm really happy you're here. And I do have a question about the item you mentioned, because I'm afraid that it was not in layman's language. I think am I correct? What you're saying is that in the future, that the amount of money that the district will pay for vouchers will need to conform with the other tenant laws, which means we may not be paying quite as much as we did in the past. Am I correct about that? Or maybe you could elaborate.
Thanks, Commissioner. Yeah, I thank you for your welcome. I'm very happy to be here. Yeah, that's essentially it. So right now, under the law, when someone rents to someone who has a voucher, if they're renting a rent stabilized unit, the laws calculating the rent under rent stabilization do not apply to that unit. And that has created some weird kind of perverse incentives. I'm sure you very well may have seen in the Post a big kind of investigation that DC is overpaying landlords by, over $1 million a month. That's because they're not doing what's called a rent reasonableness analysis, in which they kind of ask, they can pay up to a certain amount, but they're supposed to ask, what is the actual value of this unit? That general issue is one that we're looking at, and I think probably needs to be addressed by DCHA. This is kind of a subset of that, which allows, just in the context of rent stabilized units, it ends that exemption for voucher from the rent stabilized rule. So when DCHA is providing a voucher to a when so the idea is owners of rent stabilized units or buildings, excuse me, may have this kind of weird incentive to let their building deteriorate, run people out, fill it with voucher recipients, and not really treat it well, which doesn't really help any of the parties involved. So this way they kind of work a bit more on equal footing and should be a bit more harmonious. It also obviously saves us money to spend on more vouchers. So it's a kind of one of those bills that was supported by a majority of the council and advocates on all sides. So we're pretty happy with it for now, and it's just been introduced. So it still will need a hearing, a markup, and things like that. Generally, to answer your other question, Commissioner Elkins, we are right in the thick of budget season. We have about a week and a half or so left of budget oversight hearings. Then the council will recess for a week for each committee to complete its committee reports and markup and the process of marking up the committee budgets. That's when the committees kind of move around money from the mayor's proposed budget. From then there will be 2 votes in May on the various budget pieces of legislation, and I'm sure there will be kind of a lot of big issues debated and voted on then. So it's an exciting, busy time down at the Wilson Building.
I have a comment and a sort of a message and to hear what you think the council member thoughts are on increased bus service to the Palisade, particularly to the new high school. We were hoping to see that in the mayor's proposal. Do you know if Councilmember Freeman hopes to put that forward for the success of the new high school in the ward? What can you tell us about that?
Great question. So the council member included that in his list of budget requests to the mayor. The mayor chose not to fund it. As I'm sure you've heard, it's quite it's a tight year. So we don't quite have as much money to play with as we typically like to. The council member will be meeting with the various relevant committee chairs to discuss kind of where this money may be found. You know, can't promise anything. It's hard to find this money in such a tight year, but that's certainly one of his priorities. We also have DDOT's oversight hearing. I believe it's Monday, the 10th of April. And I'm sure the council member will be asking about the bus route particularly, and kind of also general accessibility to that new high school. So you know, he's on it.
Could I just, maybe you can bring this message back, because I think this is also really important. We're considering some new apartments here in the Palisades, and I think more is going to be coming up. We've got things here where Black Coffee is, the Wells Fargo is going to close. That's going to be ripe for redevelopment. And the proposals that are coming before us have limited to 0 parking spaces. And without this increased bus service, it is very difficult to live in this neighborhood without a car. And I think that the survey that our community did shows that we are not car loving, we are car dependent. And the bus service is going to get us more housing. And I think that it would be an investment that's going to help the city at large. And I would just leave you with those comments to take back to Councilmember Freeman for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I will certainly bring those back to the council member. I think he agrees that it's vital that we open up transportation mobility options down here in the Palisades, especially with the high school, but also with regard to increases in housing and kind of changes going on. So I will certainly bring it to him. Yeah.
And it's really all of our neighborhoods. It goes through Foxhall Village, and Spring Valley has their own buses. So thank you very much. Is there anybody else with any comments or questions for Mr. Palmer? And thank you. I will now have you on our list for future meetings.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next on the list is anyone from DDOT. I do not believe that Christian is here, but please speak up if you are. Mr. Pinheiro, No, I was not. All right, we're going on to our higher ed institutions. Up next is George Washington University, and I do believe that Kevin Days is on the Zoom.
I am on the Zoom. Can people hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you. I just have two quick updates that I want to share with you, and then I'll let you get back to your packed agenda. One is, as you may recall, the university has reinstated many of its community benefits, including use of the library, use of the W Street Gate, and being able to ride the shuttle. When we rolled that program out, we made an additional border that was at Foxwell Road. So families that used to take advantage of our community benefits were shut out when we put that border in. After hearing from community members, we have moved that border, that southern border, further down. It now extends down to Q Street and MacArthur Boulevard to the south. And so community members who live in those areas are eligible to apply for a G-World card and take advantage of the benefits. So I just wanted to be able to share that with the commission and share that with the community members. The only other issue is that we're getting lots of information requests about the Mount Vernon campus pool, and we are opening that pool in the summer. And we will be offering community members memberships. So if you're interested in getting information about joining the Mount Vernon campus pool, please send me an email and I'll connect you to those individuals. I think that's it for my updates. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Can you drop your email in the chat?
I certainly will.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Days? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening now, folks.
I don't expect this, but is there anyone from Georgetown or Sibley or AU who is on the call who would like to say anything? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Days.
Oh, I'm here from AU. It's Maria Berry.
Oh, hi. Maria, please go ahead.
Yeah. So just real quick, my name is Maria Berry. I'm the Director of Community Relations at American University. I hope folks got to enjoy some of this great spring weather, minus the pollen. We had exciting news today at American University. Our new Sudama sculpture was released, and there was an event welcoming the new sculpture that's on Mass Avenue across the street from the Katzen. So please, it's in front of Kogod on our campus across from the Katzen. So please feel free to explore the new sculpture, which will be with us in perpetuity. This was a sculpture that was moved from the National Geographic Museum and was gifted and donated to the university, and National Geographic actually paid to have it moved to our campus. So I hope you can all enjoy that, especially during the spring season. We also had a wonderful moon tour of our campus last night. We hold those every so often. To find out more about events, we have a monthly newsletter that we send out to the community members. I'll drop in the link how you can subscribe if you're not already on it, but I hope we do get to see you at some of our events around campus. Lastly, we're going to have some upcoming orientation sessions for people who are joining the AU Neighborhood Partnership. They're going to be coming up at the end of the month, and I'll be sending out an email to our email list and to some community listservs if you wanted to join and explore more about the AU Neighborhood Partnership. Lastly, we have the date for our annual town hall with President Burwell. It's going to be on June 20th. And again, stay tuned for more information on how to RSVP. So as always, I'll drop my contact in the chat and look forward to working with all of our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we do have some guest speakers here for a new institution that is coming to Palisades, and this is Apple Tree. They are going to spend about 6 or 7 minutes. We have on here Natalie Perilla and the Chief of Schools, Jamie Miles, and Dr. Siobhan Brown, who is the Chief of Research and Innovation. And Brad, I do believe they are going to want to share their screen. Welcome.
Thank you, Trisha. Siobhan couldn't make it. She just had a little baby. He's a few months old and he is calling.
That is okay.
And for me, my name is pronounced Natasha Perilla, and we have Jamie Miles, but that's fine. I know you have a lot going on.
Natasha, sorry, I didn't have my glasses on.
It's
Thank you.
okay. Yeah, I'll need to share my screen. Is that possible for me to do?
I think that you are a co-host now, so you should be able to do that.
Okay, I'm going to go here and share. There we are. Let me see if I can make this just a slideshow. Okay, can everyone see that?
Perfect.
Great. Okay, so I'm gonna be pushing the slides across, and Jamie's gonna be speaking, and then I'll talk a little bit about Every Child Ready along with Jamie.
All right. Thank you so much, Natasha, and thank you, ANC commissioners, for this opportunity. We are excited to be here. As Natasha said, first of all, apologies if my voice goes out. I am really struggling through the allergy season, particularly these last 3 days. So apologies in advance because I sound horrible, but I'm gonna push through anyway. But we are excited to be here before you today, as well as we are excited to be coming to the neighborhood. So the goal here is to keep it very brief. But we want to give you a quick overview of who we are at Apple Tree, what we do, and what we will be doing in the neighborhood in August. So Apple Tree, we're a mission-driven organization. We are committed to making sure all of our students, they get the most exceptional, high-quality early childhood experience possible. We have been around for about 25 years, 20 years as a charter school. We have 11 schools throughout the city, our 12th site opening in the fall, and we have served thousands of students over these last few years in all wards of the city. I think we're now in every ward except for 2, but we currently serve families from every single ward in the city. The unique thing about Apple Tree is that we are a network of schools. I share this simply because, it's a new school starting and people are like, what's happening? How do you know what's going to be done once you get there? The reality of it is we've opened several schools. And when we open schools, we always strive to get a little better each time, but we stay true to who we are as an organization. We stay true to our mission. We stay true to our values. We do make sure we're very recognized that there are unique experiences in each of our communities. So our culture may feel a little different as we cater to the needs of our community, but we are grounded on some key things. One in particular is our instructional model. I'm gonna give Natasha the opportunity to tell you a little bit about our Every Child Ready instructional model. You're on mute, Natasha.
There we go. Sorry about that. Let me just go back one. Okay, so our Every Child Ready model is pretty unique. We have a research to practice model and opportunity where what I was sharing with Trisha on another conversation was that there's an opportunity for the community and parents to be involved in the production of our curriculum. And the best part about it is it's online, it's not in print, and that gives us the opportunity to listen to our parents, our community in order, and the research as well, to put that into practice. So that way, whatever we discover that is good for children and for their learning, we can immediately put that into place. Every Child Ready is a play-based early instructional model that is aligned with the science of reading. And the best part about Every Child Ready and Apple Tree is that we are exclusively for 3 and 4-year-olds. That is what we know, and we know it very well. Let me, next slide. Our instructional model has 10 playful units. Right now we're in unit 7, Animal Kingdom, from squeaks to roars. Our daily schedule deals with question of the day, where we provide a question for our children to talk and discuss. We have morning meeting, which is for 10 minutes. We have gross motor. That's where our children are able to handle their fingers, their movements, and so forth. Learning lab is our science component, which has those real world experiences where children are actually in a place where they can do science experiments with their teachers. Journaling is actually one of my favorites, where children They get to do inventive spelling and so forth. And they produce what they hear from their read alouds. And they also have an autonomous time where they get to get in front of their classroom, their peers, and talk about what they wrote. We have read alouds, and we also have small groups. If there's anything else, Jim, you'd like to add about our instructional model every time ready, that would be great, but I'll just keep moving with the slides. And thank
Wonderful.
you for listening to us about this.
Yep. Thank you, Natasha. And I just want to highlight the fact that it is tailored to early childhood students. That is probably the selling point. I was in education, been in education for a long time, but I was also a school principal. And I've been guilty of taking curriculum that is very high level, 5th grade, 3rd grade curriculum, and trying to make it work for early childhood students. And the reality of it is it just really does not work. So the opportunity to be able to implement a curriculum that is tailored to our students and their needs and their age and developmental levels, as well as to be able to tweak what we see happening on a day-to-day basis, because we have our developers, we have our researchers right there in-house with us. It's a beautiful thing when it all comes together. Other things I want to highlight as we move forward, just give you a very quick overview. I will share, these slides will be available. I'll have my contact information at the end. But when we think about Spring Valley and what's happening there, we will be open from 8 to 6. We are a uniform school. We have before care and we have after care that is available for our students. We provide breakfast, lunch, and snacks. Breakfast is free for all students. Everything else is a fee-based scale based on where you are on the scale. Pay for everything, pay for some of it. It's up to you to decide and submit the paperwork for that. As I mentioned, we have before care and our aftercare program. And our aftercare program begins at 3:15 and ends at 6 p.m. Students do not have to be potty trained to come to us. We know that our students are still learning, they're trying to figure it out, and we are here to work with you and to support it. As long as you provide us with the items they need for toileting, we will work with you and develop a plan and support you in that process. We do have technology in our classrooms, but because we know we can get technology at any point, at any time, at any day, everywhere, we do try to limit the time, but at the same time, we recognize that it's a part of our world, so we don't limit it. We do not take it out of our classrooms, but instead we're very intentional with the type of technology we present to our students and have in front of them. We provide all supplies other than a small backpack and a pad and a mat for your student to lay on, or sheets rather, a cot sheet. Other than that, we take care of everything else for you, to include all field trips and anything else that's needed. We make sure that we provide that for our students. If there are any students who need additional support, we have full-time social workers / counselors in our buildings helping our students regulate social emotional learning. We had more time, we could spend an hour talking about how we really support students in their social emotional development, but know that we have, as part of our instructional model, it is built into our instructional day, and we have staff members who are there to work with our teachers, as well as work with our students to make sure our students get the social emotional support that they need, as well as any student who may have an IEP, any disability, and we like to say exceptionality that's exceptional and wonderful. We are able to tailor and support them, from occupational therapists, speech pathologists, language support, whatever supports are needed, we're able to provide it to your student as well. And then we have our non-English speaking students. We have ELL teachers who support the entire network. We're able to go and provide our language development and support for those students. We love our families. We love our families. We want our families to be involved. So coming on field trips, joining our parent-teacher organization, which we call Parents at Apple Tree, volunteering in our classrooms, attending weekly events throughout your class, in your classroom, in your building. We have network-wide events. This particular weekend, we have breakfast with the bunnies. So we're hunting for some eggs and the bunnies coming out. We visit the zoo. We go a lot of places and we do a lot of great things. We have family cafes where you can just come and talk about family and life and how to parent and just get through life during these times. And we always love feedback from our curriculum expectation and model down to anything that we do. We want the feedback, we receive that feedback, and we try to be as responsive as we can to that feedback. Safety is always number one, supreme. You can look at it here, but we want to make sure that we not only send your students back to you the way that you sent them to us, that's safe. And we also want to make sure that they're a little better than you sent them to us. And that's the academic piece. So academically, we're going to push them. Safety, we're going to send your precious child back to you just the way that you presented them to us. And some of the frequently asked questions as we think about Spring Valley. Yes, the building is scheduled to be open on time. Met with the team again today. We are on track to open. We are currently looking at 7 classrooms, 4 preschool classrooms, that's our pre-K3 program, and then I can't count 3 pre-kindergarten classrooms. The lottery, as many of you may know, the lottery is open and has closed and results are out. People can still apply. We have, if everyone who got accepted, as well as those on our waiting list, if they accept a seat, we'll have about 15 seats remaining. So if you are interested, we ask that you would please, if you have not, please apply, reach out to us, talk to us so that we can support you in that process. Again, we're not full yet because again, the lottery results were just released and we're in the process of calling families to make sure they still want their seat. If they accept their seat, we will give them that seat and we will continue to move forward. Classroom sizes, you can see them listed here. We typically stay between 18 to 20 students. We have anywhere between 2 to 3 teachers in the classroom, usually 2 dedicated adults, and then a third individual who may float between classrooms to support as needed. With on-site parking, playground, bike lanes, bike racks, that actually came from another meeting with families like, hey, we would love to see some bike lanes and some bike racks. So that's how we take feedback. So we took it, we went back to our developers and say, we need to make this happen. So we will see the bike lane and we will see the bike racks, and as well as we are developing an indoor play space. So if we can't get outside on the playground, we'll have the opportunity to engage inside the building as well. And our playground is not just for us, it's also for the community because we love to give back and add to the space versus take away anything while we are here. So that is the biggest high level, very quick presentation of what we do. This is how you can contact us. The contact information is listed here. Email us, call us, and also come by for a visit if you would like. We are not in our final place, of course, they're building right now, but we do have a spot on the 3rd floor, I do believe. There are signs everywhere, but you can come up, you can visit us during these hours. I would strongly encourage you to call first. Simply because our site where we have our office is not a permanent location. So if anything happens, if someone wants to rent the space, we may have to move to another room, but we are there, we're ready to receive and welcome. And we also encourage those who have not done so to visit some of our other sites within the city, because there you can definitely see more about who we are and what we do at Apple Tree. Okay, I'm done. Questions?
Could I, yes, thank you. We're going to open it up for questions, but in terms of enrollment, are you expecting to have both 3-year-old spaces and 4-year-old spaces, or where's your enrollment heavier on one cohort?
Yes, so our enrollment is heavier on I'm just double checking those numbers. It should be our preschool side. That's what we actually,
the 3-year-old?
The 3-year-olds, yes.
Okay.
Initially, we went in pretty open, saying maybe we'll have 4 pre-K classrooms, the 4-year-olds, and 3 preschool classrooms. But once we received our match list back and the wait list numbers, recognize we have a greater demand for the preschool, but we're still able to get those pre-K families in at this stage. I would say those who are on the match list and wait list at pre-K, we should be able to get everyone then, and very close to that as well for our preschool students.
Does anyone on the commission or the public have a question for Apple Tree? Just so you know, this meeting is being recorded. So when we send this out to the community, I'll highlight this. And if there's any way that that last slide, you could drop that information in the chat, I'm sure there's people who will copy it and send it around also.
Absolutely. Natasha, would you please take care of that for us?
Thank you.
I am going to call on our State Board of Education rep for Ward 3, Eric Goulet. Go ahead, Eric.
I hadn't planned on asking a question to this panel, but you opened the door to it, Tricia, so I wanted to do it. It was great to hear from you the last time you came in. It's such an exciting program that you're bringing 3- and 4-year-olds here to services to Ward 3. I think what we'd hoped for was, parents would take advantage of this. I emailed a number of people. I would try to get it out of the listservs, but we just ran out of time on that. What are your results you've seen back so far from the My School Lottery, if you're able to share that? And did we hit the 80% number we were hoping for of Ward 3 families applying through the lottery? Do we know the results yet?
Oh, I think you're muted, Ms. Miles.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we do know those results, and I am trying to just that quick. I thought I was ending and I closed all my windows.
Sorry about that.
No worries. So trying to see if I could pull it up very quickly. Of course, things that want to work the way they should work. But to that end, the majority of the families right now, what are those numbers? With 140 seats between our waitlist families and those who actually got accepted in the lottery, we will have 20 seats remaining. So that's the general piece there. So right now we have 80 families who are matched with us in pre-K. And then we have approximately 20 families matched with us in our pre-K 4. But our wait list, however, is what makes up, take us to that 130 students. So again, if everyone accepts their seat as well as we go to the wait list, we will fill all seats at this location.
And I guess the question was, how many would be from Ward 3 residents?
The majority, I can't pull that back up. I will gladly share that with you, but I will say it's over 90% of those families are
That's
Ward
fantastic
residents.
news. Okay, thank you so much. And thank you for the time, Tricia. I appreciate it. Great news.
Yep.
Commissioner Duncan, I think you are muted.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming. No other hands are raised. This was very valuable information, and we look forward to having you as a business within our ANC.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
All right, thank you. All right, as we spotlight the commissioners, we are going to go to, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, commissioner updates. And I think we are just going to go in order of SMDs, which not to put you on the spot, Commissioner Elkins, but you're up.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have two items. One is the Transportation Committee of this commission is meeting on the 25th of April at 1 p.m. And as always, neighbors are welcome. We have a good conversation between the committee and the neighbors. And we get a lot of business done, as you know. Secondly, many of you know Wesley Seminary has been developing first a campus plan and now a planned unit development. It's all the same building. It's basically a dormitory that would house both Wesley students and American University students. The planned unit development is slightly more complicated from a zoning point of view, and we've been Chairman Duncan and I have been working with the authorization from this commission to engage legal assistance just to make sure we're doing our due diligence and understanding the rules and make sure that we can give best advice to the neighbors about how the neighbors might make sure that they are protected for the next 20, 30, 40 years or whatever. And that is still ongoing. But the Wesley has, as we expected and encouraged, has gone on and sent forward their application because they are hoping to meet the timetable of moving students into this dorm if it is approved by August of 2026, which seems like a long way away, but it's not when you're building a large building and you have to get all these approvals. And so the bottom line is the neighborhood, with some help from this commission members, is working through these issues, and all this will come back to the ANC at some point for discussion so that we can decide whether we can support this and if so, well, whether we can support it with any kind of conditions or whatever. So that's just an update.
Thank you, Commissioner Elkins. I have a very brief update on DC Plug. We have a very small committee right now made up of 2 people. If you are interested in the undergrounding of electrical wires in our neighborhood and would like to join our committee, I would hope you could send me a message in the chat and I'll get your name down. But essentially, our committee has learned that this is a huge operation that is mandated by legislation. And what we are going to see in our neighborhood, if you look at our telephone or our electrical poles, at the very top, the 3 wires that string flat across the very top, the highest part of the poles, that is what's going to be undergrounded, and that is all that's going to be undergrounded. In fact, many of the cables that we see on our poles are telecommunication poles. The very, very thick black wire that is a little bit lower hanging, that is not electrical, that is telecommunications. We had a meeting with them. They sent 15 people, and the idea that we are going to get all of our stuff undergrounded with this would literally take legislation by the council to force the telecommunications companies to do this for us. So there was a little bit of disappointment there, but we are keeping tabs on the design, and hopefully we'll have some good communication of when this stuff is going to happen on our streets. I believe that was the only update I had. I'm going to go to 03. Commissioner Roosevelt, do you have any updates?
Hi, yeah, I have two very small things. One of them is that DDOT sent out a notice to all of us, and I think it's more important to the people in my single member district. They're doing a retrofit project for the Spring Valley watershed, and I'm sharing a link in the chat right now on, they're having a meeting about it on April 19th, I think, Wednesday. It's a Zoom meeting. They're trying to, improve water quality and green infrastructure in our neighborhood. So if anyone wants to go and check that out, I'll be there. You can go and see whatever's going on there. And then also we have, let me pull this up. We're doing a cleanup day for Spring Valley Park on Saturday, April 29th, starting at 9 a.m. So if you're a Spring Valley resident, Kent resident, Palisades resident, if you want to come and help us clean up Spring Valley Park, it's a really important part of our neighborhood. Please come out. That's all I have.
Thank you. Moving on to 04, Commissioner Joseph.
Hey, Commissioner Roosevelt, could you put those details in the chat for the cleanup? Well,
I just put in a link. They sent around a flyer earlier.
For the cleanup? For the cleanup?
Oh, no, not for the, no, for the.
Oh, I think you're muted.
You went on mute. If you could put it, I'd love to attend.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we'll bring the kids out. Thank you. That's a great idea. I have a few updates, please, Chairperson Duncan. Related to the bus for the MacArthur High School, I've testified twice now at the urging of several Commissioner Elkins and others about the need for a bus to get students, inboundary students in particular, to the new MacArthur High School. I'm testifying again on this same point tomorrow. That'll be the third time. The council is well aware of it, and as Mr. Palmer suggested, the budget's tight, but nonetheless, it's as important as buying books and desks and having security guards as being able to, or more important, to be able to get the kids there in the first place without them having to drive or Uber or who knows what. There's really no other great alternative. So I'm testifying to that. Also, along with several other commissioners, we've been involved in several we've been involved in with respect to the zoning issue at 5122 Cathedral Avenue. This is a house that's being built at 5122 Cathedral. We've engaged council thanks to additional funding being provided by the Office of the ANC to help us understand exactly the several zoning violations that are appear to exist with this house in particular. There's extension of nonconformities, and there's other serious issues that are going to affect the neighbors dramatically. There's also serious errors on the plans where the house is in fact shown in a different, the existing house, the current house is shown in a different place as to where the house actually is in reality. And so we're working with the city. It's been hours and hours and hours of work by multiple commissioners to try to get the city to respond to us and to engage so that we can have a house built there that is legal and built according to the zoning regulations and meets all the requirements. We're not trying to stop development. We're just simply trying to make sure the development is conforms with code, because it does not now. And we've also been aware of a number of other houses that are under development that have built stairs or houses or walls in the public space, and we've been identifying these to the developer in due course. And there's a real scourge of developers building hardscaping in the public space, and we're on the lookout for all of these, and we're scrutinizing the plans carefully because that is a huge violation of both the law and the public trust.
Thank you. I've been working very hard on this, and Commissioner Joseph and I are committed to running this to the ground. Commissioner Horn, you're next.
Thank you. Just one thing, last month, we heard from developers for the space above Black Coffee. And Commissioner Duncan and I did a follow-up with them. And I think I can report that there's no real progress on any of the issues that we raised, except that they indicated that the trash, which in the current plan would be outdoors next to the triangle where everybody goes to eat, that they are talking about or working on making that an indoor trash area, which would be better. But that's it. There are other issues that they haven't addressed yet.
Next up is Commissioner Nowak.
I just have one quick update. There were a number of residents that are adjacent to the reservoir who have asked for updates on the construction that is happening at the castle buildings, right at the intersection of Reservoir and MacArthur Boulevard. It has taken a fair amount of detective work, but I think I have found the supervising contract officer at the Army Corps of Engineers. So I should have an update. I have asked that person if she would be willing to meet with residents, answer questions, or if not, at least give us a written update on the project. Their questions really centered around what are the objectives of the construction happening there and what's the timeline. So I don't have a final answer for you yet, but it is in progress and we are making progress, which I could not report previously. That's all I have for today.
Thank you. Commissioner Simkowitz, you're up.
Yes, the most important thing we have to face in the district today is crime. And crime is not as rosy as one of my fellow commissioners said last month when they reported that carjackings were relatively rare. Carjackings are not relatively rare. There were 161 carjackings this year from January 1st. 73% of those involved guns. There have been 57 homicides year to date, which represents a 33% increase from last year. 44 incidents of sex abuse, and that represents an 83% increase. There were 331 assaults with a dangerous weapon, 636 robberies, 1,068 violent crimes, and 1,750 motor vehicle thefts. That means 1,750 people. 1,750 people have had their cars stolen. That's disgusting. Property crimes have increased 28% from last year, and all crimes have increased 24% from last year. So that's my update.
Thank you. I'm going to open this up to community concerns. If you are at the meeting to discuss a matter that we have on our official agenda, you can hold your comments to then, but please raise your hand. Can give you a minute to speak. I'm calling on Troy Kravitz. Go ahead. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I just want to flag for the Commission's attention some messaging recently shared on listservs, in particular communication and engagement that reflects quite poorly on the Commission. As longtime ANC commissioners know, there's been persistent and pernicious reports from the Foxhall area of 3D about residents feeling excluded based upon their views, in particular views that go against the more vocal sentiments currently filling the public square. It's unfortunate that a recent post from the 07 commissioner likely exacerbated these feelings. In the post, the 07 commissioner, quote, asked everyone who wants to save Hardy Park to testify at the ANC meeting, unquote, and, quote, urge everyone who wants to save Hardy Park to provide their objections, unquote, to a fellow commissioner. To be clear, this is representative democracy. I take no issue with the commissioner using his judgment when evaluating an issue, but to cloak this judgment in the sentiment of the community when only sentiment that supports the commissioner's
this is an ad hominem attack, and it's more than a minute. We have time limits for this, and this point is on our agenda later on today.
No, I'm not talking about the point, Jacob.
He's talking about the listserv, but point taken. Your minute is up. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Kravitz.
I do hope the commissioner issues a public and sincere apology to the residents who may have felt disturbed by that. Thank you.
Hardy Park School is dead
Thank
right
you.
now, Mr. Kravitz.
Okay, we are moving on. Are there any more community concerns? Okay, we are moving on to our commission business, and we have with us Allison Prince. If we could get her spotlighted. This item on the agenda, Commissioner Nowak, did you want to introduce? I can do it. It's in your SMD. I think you're muted. No. Nope, but we can't hear you. You're not muted, but. All right, in the interest of time, I'm going to introduce the resolution while we work on. Motion on the floor is for St. Patrick's to be able to approve their BZA application to include 2 residential homes that they own on Whitehaven Parkway to be part of their campus plan. Is there a second? Commissioner Horn seconds the motion. Discussion. And I was hoping Commissioner Nowak would be able to explain a little bit more, but I may turn this over to Ms. Prince. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
So for those who may or may not be familiar with Whitehaven Parkway, the south side of Whitehaven Parkway is occupied by the Lab School to the west and St. Patrick's Episcopal Day School and Church to the east. On the north side of Whitehaven Parkway, starting at the east, we have the George Washington Mount Vernon campus, the St. Patrick's School Gymnasium, and then there are a number of single-family homes before you get to Our Lady of Victory School. So the 2 buildings that will be discussed tonight and are the subject of the St. Patrick's resolution are 2 of those homes which have been owned by St. Patrick's for a number of years and were held for rental, and therefore were not part of the nonprofit campus plan. They paid property taxes on those buildings. However, the school has opted to convert those homes into part of their campus. One will house offices and the other is a home for one of their employees as an employee benefit to him, and as such should be deemed as part of the St. Patrick's campus. And that is what the resolution seeks, is for the BZA to designate them as such, and all of the treatment that goes along with that. And I'll stop there, Ms. Prince. If I've misrepresented anything, please feel free to clarify.
That was such an excellent summary that I really don't have anything to add.
Okay, you're going to be here in case someone has questions. Commissioner Simkowitz,
Sure.
Go ahead. Oh, you're still muted.
Ms. Prince has a dinner to go to, is that correct?
I'm trying to get there.
Madam Chairperson, may I ask one question to Ms. Prince that's related to the Foxhall School, since she represents the Lab School now, rather than make her sit?
And Robert's Rules of Order.
Well,
I won't be participating in that discussion.
She's not. I don't want to keep her. I don't want to keep her here
No.
longer
I'm
than
just
she
saying,
should.
Robert. Point of order. We can only talk about the amendment that's on the floor right now, and the Lab School is not. So I'm sorry.
So you're going to keep her here for another half hour, or not give her the opportunity to speak on behalf of her client, Lab School? I want to ask one question.
We are talking about St. Patrick's right now. Does anyone else have any questions on St. Patrick's?
So you're gonna make her sit here for another half hour when she has a dinner to go to.
I have communicated with Ms. Prince. This is not your issue.
Spoken. Yeah, we've spoken.
I'm calling the question. All those in favor? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Prince.
Thank you for your time. And I'll be back in May on the Lab School, the other.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the Arizona Avenue protected bike lane NOI comments, and I'm going to hand it over to Commissioner Elkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a subject which has been dealt with extensively, as you know, over the last several months by the Transportation Committee. And once again, we have a letter before the commission prepared by the Transportation Committee for our consideration. As you know, in December of last year, the ANC did endorse the general concept of a protected bike lane on Arizona Avenue. And consequently, the Department of Transportation has put out a notice of intent to build such a bike lane and has provided us their updated drawings. The letter which we have in front of us is a number of detailed changes to the proposal from DDOT, which we're proposing go forward to DDOT in time for their notice of intent comment period, which ends in a couple of days. We did receive comments from the community. In particular, today we received, all of us, I think, received a letter from Mr. Kroll. He has been consistent in his opposition to this bike lane, and so we have these materials in front of us, and I would like to propose that we adopt the letter that is in front of the commission on the website, which essentially calls for a number of relatively simple changes to the proposal. It also emphasizes again what we said in December, which was connectivity of this bike lane is very important, and we hope the department pursues those additional projects in an expeditious fashion. So I propose that, Madam Chairman, and I'm looking for a second.
Discussion. Does anyone have any questions? There was a lot of people who worked on this. I'd like to thank the Transportation Committee, and just so people in the public know, the previous ANC before this commission took office in January voted for the NOI to be issued. DDOT has done that, and this is on the design. Commissioner Joseph?
Thank you. I want to just commend the Transportation Committee for the excellent work they've done. Both Commissioner Elkins and Commissioner Duncan and many other people from the community have worked very hard on this and have really taken to heart the feedback, both positive and negative, that have come from the community. I also think that sometimes DDOT gets whether rightfully or not, criticized for not giving adequate notice and comment and not really engaging the community. I think DDOT's done a commendable job really engaging the community a huge amount in this process. Karen McAllister in particular has done a truly great job. Several of the issues that have been raised up by constituents have been either included in concerns have been included in the plans and are now formalized parts of the plans, or other aspects are being, I know, actively considered by DDOT, including don't block the box restrictions further up Arizona, as well as some concerns from the community members who I believe are here to testify tonight and provide their views related to concerns about additional cut-through traffic. And so I know DDOT has considered those issues as well. Thank you.
Thank you. If no one else has their hands raised, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of sending these comments to the NOI, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on.
Chairman, if
yes,
you
go
could bear
ahead.
with me just a second, I'd like to particularly call out Andrew Heimert of the Transportation Committee, who really led this issue over many months. And without him, I think we would not have been able to give this as detailed an examination as we did in the Transportation Committee, and therefore in ANC. So I think we all owe him a particular vote of thanks. Thank you.
And I see that Mr. Heimert is actually on the Zoom tonight. So thank you very much for all of your work and really your leadership moving forward on this. Our second resolution is related and also is going to be introduced by Commissioner Elkins. Do you have a motion on the floor?
Yes, as this commission knows, we are going to have a protected bike lane on New Mexico Avenue. If you've traveled New Mexico Avenue recently, it has, it has deteriorated somewhat in terms of the pavement. It doesn't look like the Grand Canyon yet, but it's not the sort of thing that you would want to have a protected bike lane built on. And so it makes a whole lot of sense to pave this, to repave it, just resurface rather, New Mexico Avenue before they build the bike lane. And one of our constituents brought this forcefully to our attention, Charles Denny, and even went so far as to do a first draft of our letter, which we very much appreciate. This is the kind of community participation that is very helpful to the ANC. And so we are putting forward a proposal that we asked DDOT to move up the paving of New Mexico Avenue to make sure it gets out in front of the actual building of the protected bike lane. I think this is a non-controversial issue, and I would ask for a second.
Seconded by Commissioner Colon Roosevelt. Discussion? All right, I shall call the question. All those in favor? I'm assuming this is unanimous. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda . 62 Cambridge Road. Is there a motion on the floor?
Madam Chairman, am I frozen here? Just a minute.
Is that me or is Commissioner Elkins? Oh, there is. There you go. You were frozen.
You're
If you have
back.
if you have a motion, you
I
can,
do
you
have
can
a
start
motion.
there.
I do have a motion. Hopefully I'm trying to close other things on my computer, so I'm not frozen out here. I apologize for that. Too many things going on.
Yes.
So we have a vacant lot on Cambridge Road. We are asking, the applicant is asking for a simple curb cut. I did ask, however, David Landsman, who is the person who handles these kinds of matters for the applicant, to be here tonight. And if the chair would grant him a little time, I think maybe 3 or 4 minutes to maybe, if he's prepared, and I don't know whether we see him here or not. I'm sorry.
Brad, he's here. Bradley, do you think you could spotlight Mr. Landsman?
And maybe allow him, perhaps he might want to bring up his screen. What I had asked Mr. Landsman to do is, I personally, and I've been doing this for 6 years, and so you'd think I could do this, but I find these diagrams sort of mystifying that we get out of the transportation TOPS program. And I would do better if I could really understand a little bit better how to read them. And I thought he might be able to give us no more than a 5-minute tutorial. David, I mean, am I asking too much, or are you able to show your screen, or or should we invite you back at another meeting?
I'm happy to give you a quick overview tonight, and can certainly give you guys a planned tutorial at another date as well. But appreciate you guys having me. We're here to discuss a single wide curb cut at 2662 Chambers Road, vacant lot. We're doing a new single family dwelling there. I do have a presentation real quick I could bring up if you'd like.
Sure.
You've just been promoted to co-host, so you should be good to go.
Great, thank you. Not showing up on my side.
While we're waiting for David, I was out walking in the neighborhood and my wife and I were out walking and Betsy walked up to the whole group of people looking at a lot and in her usual fashion, she asked, "What are you doing? Well, what are you going to do on this lot?" She has a great curiosity about this. And lo and behold, David was there and told us they were going to put in a swimming pool or whatever. But I assured him that we were out in the neighborhood every day, making sure that construction is being done safely. And I can count on that from Mr. Landsman. So we appreciate that. Are you able to get your?
Appreciate that. Yeah, the share screen is not quite working. I don't know if you guys have the plan that was posted on your guys' website, but I could talk around that if your admin's able to share for me.
Brad, I can admit people if you can show. There we go.
That's
There it is.
excellent. Thank you, Brad. So yeah, again, we're talking about a single family home. We're on the west side of Chainbridge Road there, 2662 Chainbridge. It is currently a vacant lot. So on the left-hand side, there is our existing conditions plan. You'll see we have 2 trees on our south side. So you know, they're represented by the 2 double circles there. The inner circle labeled SRZ is the structural root plate. Typically don't want to be working within that for trees. The large outer circle is the critical root zone, which is comprised of feeder roots for the tree. You're able to work in there, but don't want to do a ton of work because it's harmful to the tree if you hit a certain percentage. So that's what we're setting up on our, you know, the left-hand side, their existing conditions. Obviously, there's no improvements on the site, so not a whole lot to contend with there. There's a small wall, maybe 10 feet behind the curb line there that drops down to the lawn. On the right-hand side are our proposed conditions. We're proposing the new single-family home. We have our driveway coming in about center on the lot, which not ideal for a lot of reasons, but on this site, sort of necessitated by the tree placement. So we have the 2 trees on the south side of the site, and there's a neighboring tree on the north side of the site for the property that just went under construction at 2666 Chainbridge Road. So we're bringing our single wide driveway in sort of central on the lot, fanning out towards the right to enter into a garage integral to the home, splitting the difference between those trees. And we'll also be able to add another street tree there on the north side of that driveway and maintain the separations that DDOT requires. So we're, you know, from DDOT's perspective, we're a by right project and have obtained all the approvals from the agencies and hopefully here to get your guys' approval. I'm happy to answer any questions or go over anything in more detail if you guys have questions.
David, I have 2 questions. How
Yes,
do
sir.
I tell where the public space line is, and how do I tell where the property line is?
Great. So they're one and the same, right? So if you look on the west side of Chainbridge Road, we represent the property line or the public space delineation with a dark line there. It's a solid line with 2 dashes. Correct. And whoever's tracing there is doing a great job. That's the property line, the limits of public space. And that's sort of the delineation. On most streets, it's fairly regular and follows the curb line parallel. Chainbridge Road is a bit of an anomaly because the Chainbridge has a very thin right of way, and the roadway or the cart path, as DDOT likes to call it, doesn't follow the property lines parallel for much of it because of the curvature of the road.
So when we are making our comments to the Department of Transportation about whether we believe this is an acceptable application, are we focused only on the portion of the driveway, the curb cut there that's between the street and the property line? Or for instance, if we had comments about the shape of the parking apron there in front of the house, would that be legitimate to the Public Space Committee?
Good question. So that for this particular site, that would not be germane to our public space application. Some lots, you know, Lowell Street, for example, has a BRL to where you get into a different delineation of public space versus private, where there's sort of an overlap. On Chainbridge Road, the only part that we're applying to DDOT for and that we're in front of you guys for is from the property line eastward. So for this site, it's approximately an 8-foot by 12-foot apron, that'll be in public space. The remainder of it is subject to zoning and DOB regulations, not DDOT, and not the reason we're here.
And if you were getting into the circle there of that tree, then we might have an objection as well. Is that correct? Maybe.
If you guys had reasons to believe we were violating the arboreal, principles and practices, I will tell you, we've prepared an advanced tree protection plan as required by UFD, have submitted to them and are working through approvals with Mr. Yasha Majerick. And we'll obtain that as part of our approvals for sure. It's a very integral part, as you guys know, on Chain Bridge and the overlay. And we're very sensitive to it.
And if we thought the house that your client is going to build is really ugly, is that relevant?
I don't believe so, sir.
I just want to make that clear because
I'm not sure you can tell that from my drawing, but
well, I hope that's helpful, Madam Chair. But I move that we pose no objection to this application.
I'm going to ask actually a couple of questions myself. I see that I can't see the legend here. Can you tell us the difference? Is there a difference in material of what you have there in the public space versus what you have in the on the property?
correct.
In terms of the paving?
So in public space, DDOT will require us to do the standard concrete driveway apron that you see, not as much on Chain Bridge. Again, it's kind of an anomaly, but on your typical DDOT roads, the typical concrete apron with the 2-foot flares, that'll be there. And then on private property, we're doing sort of a build up with a materials course that we haven't chosen yet. So we're not denoting a material.
Okay, so that's why it's shown a little bit different. And has DDOT talked to you, because this is way too small for me to see even with my glasses, are they having you actually construct a curb there with a gutter? Because right now
there
most of
is an
Chain Bridge
asphalt
doesn't have
curb
any
there.
of that.
So we're going to keep the asphalt curb and we're just going to segment it where our curb cuts go. We're going to maintain the traditional asphalt kind of roll curb that's along the frontage. Now we're not going to install a new curb and gutter.
That's too bad. Does any other commissioners have any questions about the plans, about the curb cut? I think we can stop sharing. Thank you very much. In the interest of time, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of approving this plan for DDOT, raise your hand. Unanimous. Which brings us up to a second curb cut.
Thank you, David.
Other curb cut, if you're interested. On the floor is to approve a curb cut at 4825 Glenbrook Road, Glenbrook Parkway, pardon me. I don't know if we can pull up the site plan there. This is a house that $1 million remediating in Spring Valley over a number of years. The lot has been remediated. I think it's changed hands more than one time. It is vacant. There are some trees near the curb, but this plan, there I think it was created when the heavy equipment went across the curb, but these are very large lots, is completely appropriate. One of the things we were able to put in the letter is that we would like them to extend a sidewalk across the entire length of the driveway and ending. And now we are putting it all the way across the front of the property. And it seemed, the builder told me that DDOT is going to make them do it. So there it is. They have a bunch of different materials there, but right where it has the symbol RD, and that's where the driveway is going to go. Is there a second to my motion? Quentin Cologne Roosevelt. Are there any questions from any commissioners? There's a question. I'm going to answer this question in the chat. In general, no, driveways do not allow for parking in the public space. They must extend 10 feet parallel from the curb into a property. There's all kinds of circular driveways in Spring Valley, and any new one, well, they don't generally approve new ones, but they're supposed to have a separate parking area so that people don't park in front of their front doors. In general, DDOT is when people apply for these permits that is demanded of them. I'm going to call the questions. All those in favor of sending
Published on the
Up
website.
next is the
Yeah.
I second that.
Okay. Thank you. There has been a lot of misinformation about this letter. I am going to assume that those are fear-mongering, either didn't read it or didn't understand it. So one of the things that I'm going to try and do in this first couple of minutes is to summarize the key takeaways on the website. Opponents of the Foxhall Elementary School have characterized this as a park versus a school question. I think that's a false choice. In order to demand district agents. Secondly, the premise that the Foxhall School is presented delays the funding for it, but it is not dead by virtue of the fact that the design dollars remain in the budget in the out years as currently described. One of the key considerations that has been made compared to perhaps some of the questions around the Foxhall School in the past is that we now know that there is a bound by the district as per statute. And it is the recommendation of this letter in the ANC that nothing should be done such time as we have the results of that study, the forecast for enrollment population and for capacity figures for the local schools. If the population dips or if projected enrollment falls below existing capacity, then this all becomes a moot point.
A point of order, the 2-minute limit has been exceeded, Commissioner Duncan. Remember, we had a discussion about a 2-minute limit?
It's on a case-by-case basis. I'm going to let her continue. This is important.
So it was not allowed for me, but it's allowed for her. Is that correct?
I'm going to let Commissioner Nowak, she's introducing this resolution. She's going to be allowed to finish.
So will that be the rule going forward, that we can go over 2 minutes, or are you going to stick with 2 minutes?
Case-by-case basis. Commissioner Nowak, you have the floor.
How do you determine that on a case-by-case?
Chair's prerogative and the importance of the issue. You will likely be given more than 2 minutes. Commissioner Nowak, you have the floor.
Thank you. One of the keys that the letter highlights is that the design of the new school should be predicated on extensive use of the DCPS-owned Old Hardy building, with a clear directive that we want to maintain Hardy Park and protect heritage trees. Those are clearly community concerns that are addressed in the letter. The bottom line is that we have the opportunity here to either be proactive in working with the city and working with the design of this school now, or we can be reactive when this comes back into the budget at some in short order, and then we will be on our back foot. To partner with them so that we can move forward and get what we all want. I'll stop there. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Robert's Rules of Order demand that we take comments for pro and against. So I'm going to call on Commissioner Simkowitz because I know that he is against this letter.
Well,
When
I-
we call on people, it would be very helpful if you stated whether your comments on this letter are going to be pro or going to be against. And if you have an idea for an amendment, please, at the beginning of your comments, put forth an amendment. Commissioner Simkowitz, you have the floor.
I asked this to the chair, as the chair has asked me to do. There's a lease that goes to 2038, and the city is stuck with that lease. Is that the proponent's contention?
Yes.
The proponent's contention is that we're stuck with it. Is that correct?
The lease exists, so yes, under the lease, the city can reclaim 20,000 square feet of the leased area.
If the plan is accepted, where would the lab students go?
Madam Chair, you
Okay,
want me to
no, we're not legislators. So if this letter goes there, we're not kicking out the lab school. Your premise is moot. It's not relevant. Please continue.
Well, if the letter, where would they go? I mean, if they're going to co-locate, they have to move the students somewhere. Or if they boot them out, where are they going to go? Or is there going to be a new building for the lab school? These are all questions that my neighbors, my constituents want me to ask. They want to know these questions. And they were formerly my constituents across the street, who unfortunately now are represented by Commissioner Nowak, because I would love to represent those people, but I don't anymore. So I'm going to ask this question. Where would the lab students go?
We're not kicking out the lab school, JP, with this letter. So Commissioner Simkowitz.
Well,
So
where would they go? Where would the lab students go?
You're asking rhetorical questions. Please rephrase.
How much would it cost to buy out the lab school lease?
Rhetorical question. The
These are
ANC
important
commissioners do not make budgets.
But how much would it cost?
Would you like to amend the letter? Please put forth an amendment.
Did any proponent speak to DCPS about this letter? Anyone in DCPS?
The question of what is before us with this letter is about timing for a budget, for planning of the school. You are asking questions about the actual planning of the school. We are talking about the timing of that question. It's in F year 2029, and we are asking it to be in F year 2025 if the data demands it.
But I'm
If the
asking,
data doesn't
did the
demand- if the
proponent
data-
speak to DCPS about that before this resolution?
Design of this school and speaking to them about it. We are asking with this letter to them to please move on.
What about
irrelevant? Move on.
What about school board member Eric Goulet?
He has his hand up. He will have a chance to comment.
As I stated before, the school at Hardy Park is dead. The people that live in my community and Commissioner Nowak's community beat that proposal time away. This school
You're
is
welcome.
dead
Commissioner
right now.
Joseph.
Thank you.
Thank you for recognizing me. So I think Commissioner Nowak did a good job writing this letter and balancing the issues. I want to emphasize a few things as both the LSAT chair of Key School and also a commissioner. Key School is nearly at capacity. And we anticipate the data will show, although we don't know, and this is the key point of the letter, is that we don't know what the data will show, and we're not asking for any decisions to be made before the data shows this, that the, and I should say I'm speaking in favor of the letter, is that the letter is the key is it may be at capacity, and that will be known probably in the next year or two. As the second key point made in the letter is that as the redistricting commission is looking at, or the boundary drawing commission is looking at where the kids are going, the risk of kids from the Foxhall School being rezoned to further away to downtown to Hyde-Addison is a huge concern and is a huge risk for a very large number of community members. And so the key for the boundary drawing commission is to know that the school is an option, and the school is still an option, whether it's budgeted in 29 or 25, but budgeting the money, the school in for 25 allows the boundary drawing commission to consider the school as a viable option should the data show it. And that is why it's important for this letter to go now and not in a month or down the road. And a number of commissioners have made the point that we don't want to roll back any of the decisions that were made by the prior commission. And I think this letter largely, and others may speak to that, largely reemphasizes some of the points that were made previously and about the importance of the school going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other commissioners who would like to comment? Commissioner Elkins.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I represent Wesley Heights, as you know, and I think people who live in Wesley Heights are very interested in making sure that their schools are effective and are not overcrowded. And I think that that is a strong interest on the part of not just Wesley Heights, but other neighbors here. Now, at the same time, I'm sympathetic to the concerns of the people in Foxhall in terms of not having too much traffic, et cetera. I think this letter is suggesting a relatively small addition to the present Hardy building and actually reclaiming, as the lease allows, a substantial amount of square footage from the lab school. And I think while we're not in the design business at this point, it does seem that there is a possibility of going forward here. I don't think this school is dead yet. I think we simply are facing a very difficult budget season, and it's not unreasonable to see the mayor putting this off into 2029. And it also is not unreasonable to move it up to 2025. I do have one problem with this letter, which I will come back to at some point when the time is appropriate to suggest an amendment to this letter. But overall, I think this letter is consistent with what the commission has said before about this school. We had a 2-hour discussion of this back in June of 2021. And the letter that went forward from the ANC, I think, was a balanced one. I would like to, in fact, bring some language from that letter into this letter, which I'll get to later. But generally, I think this letter does not go very far from, well, it basically is consistent with the position of the ANC in the past. It simply is essentially addressing the current budget situation. But really doesn't go beyond that, except with regard to one sentence, which I'll come back to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I am going to call on Eric Goulet. If you could tell us if you're pro letter, against the letter, or at the beginning of your comments, or more nuanced.
Thank you. It's nuanced, but I do have concerns about the letter, and I'd like to kind of articulate what those are. So first of all, the budget wasn't just moved, it was reduced. So the idea that we're going to shift the budget forward in time isn't solving the problem, isn't getting the school built sooner, because the money's gone. And I'm not even clear what the money left in the budget funds at this point. Because when you look at the budget books, we went from $61 million for the Foxhall School down to 11.5, which isn't enough money to build a school anymore. Of that, you see 5.9 of it is a current balance that we have right now, and another 5.5 is out in 29. But moving the money from 29 to 25 doesn't solve the issue at all, because we're still short, most of the money you need to build the school. I mean, I think what would make more sense right now is to take the 5.5 that we have and add a little bit more if necessary to actually build a third floor on Stoddard School right now, which is we know we're underbuilding it deliberately.
So point of order, Mr. Goulet, I'm very, very sorry, but right now the amendment is about this letter. and not a policy thing. So I'm going to have to cut you off if you are
Okay,
not coming on
I'll
the
stick
letter.
to the
We're
letter.
sticking to Robert's rules.
I understand, of
All right,
course. I
thank you.
appreciate that. And I would just like to definitely speak and say that I think we need to look holistically at what the needs are and prioritize. And moving money up for this before it's looked at in the boundary study to see if this is the right move or expanding key is the right move, I think is really premature considering the funds aren't there, even if you move it up as suggested in the letter.
All right, thank you for your comments. I am going
Chair,
to
can
go
I
back. Yes.
address some clarifying comments to
Yes,
Mr.
go ahead.
Goulet's? So two things. Number one, what the letter asks for is that the design money be moved up specifically, not the construction money. And number two, I think, Mr. Goulet, you raised an important issue, which is we should wait for the boundary study, the enrollment population forecast to determine if a new school is necessary, and if so, how many seats from a ward-wide basis or whatever cluster we look at. Those are very clearly articulated in this letter as a predicate for any work that would be done around this. Thank you.
And Commissioner, could I just respond very briefly here? I don't want to go out of order, but may I respond just briefly to answer her question?
Which question was that?
Well, I think it was just a question about the timing of this. I mean, just typically we don't budget for design when it's 6 or 7 years out before the build. You budget for design close to the build. So doing design work.
Okay, I'm gonna cut you off there because one
Commissioner
of the
Duncan,
biggest
this is disgusting the way that we're treating the school board member who was lawfully elected. We would love to have.
You are not recognized. One of the biggest issues that we've had with the idea of building this school is that we don't know what it looks like. We don't know how it's going to impact the park. So I understand what you're saying, Mr. Goulet, but if we design this thing, maybe we can actually have some real discussions about what we're actually approving or not approving. I am going to open this up to someone who is now against the school. So that would be Commissioner Simkowitz. You have the floor.
So this is the original map provided by DCPS. As you can see, it takes up the park. It takes the soccer field. I have a question. The original letter that was circulated on Sunday, it says spending public funds to build a school on scarce public land and green space loved by the entire neighborhood adjacent to a near empty school is gross mismanagement and is deeply upsetting to the neighborhood residents. Why was
that language still in the letter?
Why was that taken out of the new?
We are
letter?
not discussing. We are not discussing.
That is exactly what I've said all along. Yet no one on the old ANC supported me. I lost everything 9-1 on this school.
Commissioner Simkowitz, we are not discussing how a draft became what we are discussing today. If you would like to make an amendment, would you like to make an amendment to have it put back in?
Because this was the one that we were working off of.
This is not how meetings.
6:30 tonight.
Commissioner Simkowitz.
Why isn't it?
Please.
Why isn't it?
Commissioner Simkowitz, please.
This is a proper subject for discussion. This new letter came out
a half
hour before the meeting.
Proper. It is not proper. Is there someone who is on here who is going to speak in favor of this letter? And then I will call on Mr. Avery because I'm fairly certain I know what his views are. Andrew?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak in favor of the school.
Okay.
I am a resident of Foxhole Village, according to Google Maps, not according to Bob Avery or JP Simkowitz. You can make up your own mind which resource you feel is more credible. I'm strongly in favor of the school because Foxhole, like other neighborhoods in this city, deserves a walkable elementary school. Adding a third floor to Stoddard is not going to get Foxhole families a walkable elementary school. Without that walkable elementary school, families have to walk up to 2 miles currently to get to their in-boundary elementary school. If Foxhole neighborhood is reboundaried, as seems likely to Hyde Addison or Stoddard, that distance will increase. The only way in which Foxhole families can have access to a walkable elementary school is if Foxhole Elementary as proposed is reinstated. And I fully support, as I have all along, a co-location option. I think there are a variety of options that could be pursued. And I think the letter is, it's being very sensitive to the concerns that have been raised. And frankly, the vociferous opposition to this letter as stated reinforces the idea that was floated initially, that the opposition to the school has nothing to do with park space, but everything to do with not wanting public school children in that neighborhood. And that, as a parent of 3 public school children, really offends me, as it has many others in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Beath. I am going to give Mr. Avery a chance to speak. Please feel free to unmute.
Yes, thank you. Thank you,
And
Tricia. I sound like a frog, so I have allergies, so I'm gonna.
Tis the season. You're also spotlighted, just so you know.
My eyes are all watery. I sent you all an email that really expresses my views. I hope you read it, but let me just be very to the point. This is a highly controversial issue. And I think the fundamental issue, I don't want to talk about the merits, but the fundamental issue is process. It's, as you can see, highly controversial and complex. And having whatever the resolution is, should be based upon a thorough, dispassionate, deliberative process, making sure we're all dealing with the same facts, consulting with experts, and hearing from a diversity of views. We FOIA'd emails from the previous ANC, and it pretty much showed they did not follow this process. And I had hoped this was behind us, but it seems to be, unfortunately, that's not the case. We only got 2 days notice on this proposal. No fact checking, no consultation with experts or anyone in the community. And what you're actually, it isn't, if you only want to move the money forward, there'd be a 1-sentence letter, which would say, please move the planning money forward. We'd like to do that. You actually don't do that. You endorse specific solutions, particularly as it relates to the lab school. Getting rid of the lease, co-locating, building next to it. Those are actual solutions. They're not just moving the planning process. Whether I speak on the merits of that or not, that should go through, that is a new position that you're taking. It's not been aired out with the community. Nobody's had an opportunity to weigh in on it. There's no fact checking. The numbers you have for the enrollment at the Old Hardy School are simply wrong. So that shows this was sloppily and quickly put together. Thankfully, this isn't really going to make any difference. This ANC is not going to decide what happens. And it really doesn't mean anywhere. But I would say to all of you, we would like to move forward from this issue. I would like to move forward from this issue. This is a step backwards. This is not the right way to engage on this process. We're prepared. My son, Andrew, went to Key School. I went to public schools. I haven't spent a day in a private school in my life. I believe strongly in them. But this is not the right way to solve it. If we want to deal with problems at Key, if we want to deal with trailers, we don't like that. My son went, it's not 12 years, Tricia, it's 20 years. My son went to a trailer. We should have an open process, meaningful engage on all of the solutions, not just jump to conclusions in 2 days. We're prepared to work that way. I truly am. But this letter and doing it this way just doesn't get us there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to make some comments myself, just so everyone is clear. It is not the desire of myself, and I'm probably speaking for a lot of commissioners, to put these letters forward in a last minute ad hoc manner. However, we are in budget season, and now is the opportunity to make our voices known. One of the premises of that said I could sign on to this letter and I wanted to send it is that this ANC has already voted to approve this school and said to the city that we want this school. We are not changing that. We are not relitigating that. That was done in a meeting where it took up 2 hours of the meeting. And the ANC voted, I believe, 10-1 to approve this school. We have not changed that with this letter. Hence why I was comfortable enough to put this letter out there to talk about, let's design this thing so that we know what we are talking about. I am going to call on other people for comment. Commissioner, I know that Commissioner Horn, did you have your hand raised earlier?
You know, I think my concerns are the same as Commissioner Elkins. That is specific language, and I'll wait until we get to that point.
Commissioner Joseph,
I think
we're
we're
at that point too. Commissioner Elkins, would you like to make an amendment?
Well,
Oh, I've just seen you put something in the chat. Can we pull up the letter, Brad?
I had thought that perhaps just changing one sentence, but if you combine my comments about the concern that I had, not specifically about so much this letter, but just the general procedure that we really should give as much notice to our community as possible that I expressed at the beginning of the meeting. And secondly, the concern that I'm hearing from the community here, I do have one proposal that I would put on the table for discussion. I'm not saying that this is, the best answer, but one approach would be to take the first 3 paragraphs of this letter and then put "Sincerely yours, Tricia Duncan" at the bottom of it and cut the rest of the letter. It really would.
Would you like to make an amendment so we can have a discussion since we're following Robert's rules?
Okay, I will make an amendment that we keep the first 3 paragraphs of the letter and strike the rest. And therefore the letter is strictly related to the budget with no other comments.
Is there a second? Commissioner Colon Roosevelt seconds the motion. Discussion. So right now, I know you had your hand raised, Commissioner Simkowitz, but right now we are going to discuss the amendment of just those 3 paragraphs. Commissioner Simkowitz.
I think as a point of order, I think it should go to Commissioner Nowak to see if she's willing to accept it according to the rules.
Commissioner, do you accept this as a friendly amendment?
I would like to pursue discussion about it, but yes, I would accept yes as a friendly for discussion purposes.
Okay, Commissioner Simkowitz.
Yeah, I have a question. Can we all agree that the Hardy School is dead effectively? Right now, at this point in time.
You're not questioning commissioners. So if you have comments, please make them.
It's a question to see if we're on the same.
Okay. You are going to lose your opportunity to speak if you don't have a comment about these 3 paragraphs being deleted from this letter. We are following Robert's Rules of Order to a T today. Okay, Commissioner Simquist. I'm going to go ahead and make a comment. One of the beauties about this is that it actually takes Mr. Avery's comments of if it was really about the timing of the school, that really is the gist of it. I would say, I don't know if we can go back to the beginning of the letter. I would like something in this letter to say that we would like to tie this school to actual data and not just willy-nilly say we need it or don't need it just cause. Those are my comments. Does anyone else want to comment? Commissioner Colon Roosevelt.
Yeah, so I'm in support of the amendment. I think some of the community concerns that were voiced earlier about, us making specific detail-oriented, suggestions are probably really true and something that we should take into account. We don't know whether co-location is possible. We don't know how they're going to build the school. We don't know anything about the design process, but we do broadly support the idea of if the boundary study is, showing that we do need another school, that this school should not be, kicked back or killed at all, or, dead, as some people would like to say, that this should be still be an option if the boundary study would show that we do need it. And I think, some people will say that, addition to Stoddard is the best way to solve this, but that won't help people where I live in Spring Valley. We all go to Horace Mann. Horace Mann is looking like it might be over capacity next year. If the boundary study does show that, we really do need some other option. And I think this is the best way to do it without suggesting that co-location is a thing, or without suggesting we take up parkland or don't take up parkland. We should let the DC government decide. We should let DCPS decide we should not be making decisions based on that because we really don't have knowledge of what's needed for a school day.
Thank you. I'm going to call in Commissioner Nowak, and then Commissioner Joseph is next.
I would be willing to accept Commissioner Elkins' proposal as amended by Commissioner Duncan. I do think it is important that we should highlight that it should be the data that drive the need for a school or not to school. And to leave that out, I think we would be missing an opportunity to highlight that as a critical component.
I'm going to ask Brad to move up to the second page. I want to say I remember a sentence that talks about that. Commissioner Joseph, go ahead.
I'm going to speak in opposition of the amendment. As a new commissioner, I respect what the prior ANC has done. I also, though, am aggrieved by the way that the lab school lease came about. That was very upsetting to me when I was not a commissioner, and the information about the amount of the use of the lab school space comes from misprints in our prior meeting. So the information is not inaccurate. I want to add that. And further, Key is nearly overcrowded, and I just found out that we had a huge enrollment in the pre-K, and so that shows just another data point that enrollment is coming back. And further, I think the letter makes good and important points about the value of having a local neighborhood school, and also I think it makes good important points about preserving green space and putting this ANC's mark on what we think is the right approach, which is in respect and in response to community concerns that have been raised by the Foxhall community, which was why some of that additional language is in the letter, because we're trying to be responsive to the folks that are in the respective SMDs that are most affected by this. And so I'm willing to concede that Mr. Commissioner Elkins' amendment is probably the better approach, but I do think there's a lot of good information in the letter. If we were to accept the amendment, making sure that the data aspect in there would be very important.
All right, Commissioner Simkowitz, do you have a comment on the removal of all but the first three? Go ahead.
I was also, like Commissioner Joseph, irritated when the lab school lease was signed on Christmas Eve. In fact, on June 2021, we had a meeting in June 2021, and I asked for the Attorney General to investigate that lease, and I couldn't even get that approved by the old ANC. So I did my best to get this for everybody, and it didn't happen.
Could you unshare the screen, Brad, for us, please? Thank you. Okay, I want to make sure I get this right. The amendment to the amendment is what we're voting on now. And this is to add a sentence to the first three paragraphs that asks DCPS to base their decisions on the school on actual enrollment data that they're going to get through their process. And we'd be able to add that sentence ahead of time. So this would be an amendment to add that sentence to the first three paragraphs. Do I have a second? Unless that's a friendly amendment. Is anybody opposed to that?
I think that's a friendly amendment. I view that as
okay.
friendly.
It's a friendly amendment. Okay, so the amendment. Okay, so right now, the amendment on the floor is to eliminate everything from this letter, save for the first three paragraphs, plus that one sentence about tying decision making to actual enrollment. Is there a second? Actually, the motion on the floor, it's already been as amended.
Commissioner Duncan, can I add one more thing? I'd like to add one more sentence to that. is the idea that it is the objective of the ANC to protect green space. You know, Mr. Simkowitz held up his drawing of the big blob, and we are critically speaking against that in this. The letter is really meant to speak against that. Without going into all of the details, which others have objected to, I do think that there is, we need to point out that the community has concerns about the school size of the school relative.
We can, Commissioner Elkins, do you have a comment on that?
Yes, I do. I think I have environmental credentials that allow me to speak to saving trees and green space. And I would say that I would prefer language that was in the June 21 letter, which basically said, any new school should be designed so as not adversely affect the ability of the community to enjoy existing public space and recreation activities at Hardy Park. I think drawing a red line that said absolutely not a single foot of green space should be used for this new building is just tying the hands of DCBS, and such they say they would just throw up their hands and say, you know, our architects can't figure that out. It seems to me, I understand the concern of the Foxhall community about the value of the Hardy Park. It's a wonderful park, but a few feet, maybe they could live with that. Until we see the design, we really shouldn't be drawing bright lines and say absolutely kill us if you go over this line. I think something more reasonable like should be designed so as not to adversely affect the ability of the community to enjoy existing public space and recreation activities in Hardy Park. And when we get to design, that's when we can comment about, no, you took too much space. Why don't you put a third floor on there instead of that or whatever? So I suggest a little bit more moderate language. Thank you.
I'd be amenable to that again as a friendly amendment. I think it gets to the core, which is the community has spoken that the park is important and that we want to protect the park.
Okay, I would like Commissioner Nowak, would you please, I would like to call the question. Could you, as you understand it, the amendment that we're voting on?
Yeah, so I think the current resolution is the first 3 paragraphs plus a sentence that nothing should happen before the studies are completed, and a sentence that says we'd like that Mr. Elkins read from the original letter. That is what I am moving for a vote.
This is to amend the letter to have that. All those in favor?
May I ask a question, just for a grammatical question?
Yes,
Do
please.
we intend to include the sentence that is in bold? ANC3D does not support the construction of a new school building. Do we all see that, and we intend for that to be in the letter still?
I think so. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Wait, what is it? What is that?
It's the last sentence in paragraph number 3. ANC does not support construction of a new skill building because one already exists.
If I may,
I'm having trouble finding that.
it's the bold
Last sentence,
sentence.
3rd paragraph, bold sentence on the first page.
If I may, Commissioner, Chairwoman.
Yes, please.
Hearing what Commissioner Elkins said and some of the additional comment, I wonder if that sentence is actually not intended to remain in there, and so I would like to. I don't know. Maybe Commissioner Elkins should suggest what he wants to do with it, or Commissioner Nowak.
Madam Chair, could we ask our administrator to bring the letter up? There's at least the version.
Absolutely.
That doesn't seem to have. Well, I'm having trouble connecting with what is being suggested.
Brad, can you pull up the letter again, please? Thank you.
And blow it up as big. You know, some of old eyes have a hard time reading 5-point font.
Thank you.
Could you make it bigger, Brad? Is it technologically possible for you to make it bigger? Yes, thank you. Now,
Okay, so the second paragraph, I'm going to read it out loud for everybody. It says ANC3D does not support construction of a new building in Foxhall neighborhood. One already exists. I would like to amend the amendment to put in that sentence that was in the original resolution.
Which is
Wait,
what? No, I don't object to the original sentence, but I think that is in addition to Commissioner Duncan, not instead of the one that Mr. Elkins was talking about not adversely impacting the park or the enjoyment of the park.
Madam Chairman, this is a letter that's different from what is on the website. I'm sorry to be difficult, but I don't think this, so that's why I'm difficult.
Yeah, so Brad, is this the same letter that you just pulled up a few seconds ago?
No, I received this letter around 4:30 this afternoon. I uploaded it, but apparently it did not publish. And then
So this was the amended letter, commissioners, that went this afternoon, and Brad uploaded it, but perhaps there were some issues with that.
Well,
But this is the.
Madam Chairman, could I have a few minutes just to read this, because I'm not sure an earlier recommendation is sound. I was reading the version on the website thinking that was the latest one.
I was too.
Commissioners, this
okay,
letter
yes.
takes into, was redrafted based upon the feedback that I received from those of you who provided feedback to the earlier letter. Mr. Elkins, yours was specifically highlighted. There was some language that you found to be less than artful that we removed.
Mhm.
And so that's where.
Yes, I can see this sentence, does not support construction of a new school building in Foxhall neighborhood. One already exists. Isn't that inconsistent with the idea that we would add an additional building to attach to the lab school? I thought that's where we were going.
Commissioner Duncan, you already called the question. Why are we having this discussion?
Yeah, I have noticed this. Okay, I called the question. So we're going to have a vote on the amendment.
And I'd like the vote to be recorded.
I'm encouraging everyone to vote no.
Including me?
I'm going to come up with another amendment because I don't think we were all working off the same letter.
Sorry, so you've already called the question.
Well, the
question
is,
here's the vote.
And I think
to approve the amendment to get rid of everything except for the first 3 paragraphs plus tying everything to data. Brad, could you please call the roll?
Yeah.
You can just go in the order of pictures.
3D07.
No.
3D04.
No.
3D03.
I'm so lost. I think no. I'm so lost.
You're fine.
3D02.
No.
3D06.
No.
3D05.
No.
3D01.
No.
Amendment fails.
Okay, so thank you for keeping us on track, Mr. Wolf. Right now, we are back to the original motion of having this whole letter. This is the letter, and this is the language. I would like to propose an amendment. The motion, I would like to amend the letter to include only the first 3 paragraphs without the last sentence in bold, and that it softens the language that changes that we do not support construction of a new building at Foxhall, but that any new structure lessens the impact of the park, or some language to that effect. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Okay, I'll just say what the reason I want to do this is because if we do need this school, I think personally that overcrowded schools and addressing that is more important than not having any green space. I do believe that with the lab school there, we can reclaim 20,000 square feet of the property that is within their lease boundaries. Anything that is built that includes a gymnasium would also be an amenity for the park that DPR could run for the residents over in that end of the neighborhood. That is my personal values. Commissioner Simkowitz, you have your hands raised. You have the floor. No, okay, that was fine. Or is there any other discussion? Commissioner Elkins.
I want to just clarify what we're voting on, if I could. I believe that the third paragraph that we're now looking at does take care of your data needs. If not, I hope you will speak up. Otherwise, you're striking the last sentence that's in bold. And I think we're adding a sentence that says any new school should be designed so as not adversely affect, not to adversely affect the ability of the community to enjoy existing public space and recreation activities at Hardy Park, which is a sentence from the June 21 thing. Am I correct that that is what's on the table?
Yes, that is the amendment that is now on the table. Is there any other discussion? All right, I'll call the question. I do think we should call the roll on this. Sorry, everyone, it's taking a lot of time.
And this is a vote in favor of the amendment or the letter as amended?
The amendment. We are voting on the amendment.
Commissioner, if I accept it as a friendly amendment, does that allow us to just accept the letter at the same time?
It does.
Let's do that, please.
Okay, great. Friendly amendment. The motion on the floor is to approve this letter as amended. Why don't you, we can do this without a roll call if you stop sharing the screen, Brad. Thank you very much.
No.
Chairman, I think we need a roll call. I asked for a roll call.
Okay, roll call it is. Brad?
3D01,
Yes.
3D02,
Yes.
3D03,
Yes.
3D04,
Yes.
3D05,
Yes.
3D06,
Yes.
3D07.
No.
You're on mute.
Commissioner Duncan, you're mute.
Yeah, motion passes 6-1. Thank you all for your thoughtful comments. We have read all of the comments in the chat also. We are moving on to Aussie Bus Service. Commissioner Cologne Roosevelt, do you have a motion?
Yes, sure. The motion on the floor is to approve the letter asking the council and mayor basically to provide stricter oversight of Aussie in its bus service that it provides to kids with 504s and IEPs around the district.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Horn seconds the motion. Discussion? I'm going to go ahead and comment on this. I am well versed in the special ed world, and I know a lot of parents whose children take this bus. Aussie Bus Service is not run very efficiently. I do believe that there is just questionable management systems they have, and I am going to be in full support of this letter. Because we have a school board member here, Commissioner Goulet, I'm going to give you 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay, well, I just want to speak in full support of this. I want to thank you both for proposing it. And this is a real tremendously concerning issue for me because I've heard from a lot of parents about Aussie's failure in this area. We don't have oversight of this issue. The council does. They haven't held a single hearing on the issue. There's been no leadership on this issue. And I'd like to put on the record how concerned I am by the fact that there's over 400 witnesses on a single agenda before the DC Council tomorrow. They have been derelict in their oversight, and it is a deep, deep concern for many people. And I just want to commend you both for taking leadership on this issue.
Thank you. It's all really Commissioner Clone Roosevelt, but this is near and dear to my heart. But we are all very busy. I'm going to call the questions. All those in favor of sending this letter? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Up next is my item. Motion on the floor is to send a letter to DDOT asking them to complete the work of changing over our speed limit signs from 25 miles per hour to 20 miles per hour. Is there a second? Commissioner Clone Roosevelt, thank you very much. Second. Very, very quickly, all of our local streets here and all over the city are 20 miles per hour. And they seem to have stalled on their turning over of the signs from 25 miles per hour to 20 miles per hour. I'd like to thank Commissioner Simkowitz and his constituent who brought to my attention the fact that people have some self-driving technology and they are zooming way too fast through our streets. And a lot of new cars now are picking up the speed limit by scanning the actual signs on the street. One thing I would like to have everyone note that we are going to delay the sending of this letter by 3 or 4 days because I am crowdsourcing in the neighborhood a spreadsheet of people when they see the signs in their neighborhood that still read 25 miles per hour, that they can put the address in there. And it's not meant to be a comprehensive list for DDOT, but is meant to show them. I already have 15 signs on there from Spring Valley alone. I'm going to be dropping my little Google form in the chat over the next 3 or 4 days. Anyone on this call will be able to put a block number, for example, 3600 block of 49th Street or Tilden or wherever. You put that in there and we're going to send that over with this letter. So the letter will be delayed. Is there any other comments or discussions from commissioners? All right. All those in favor of sending this letter? Motion passes. Moving on, motion on the floor is to approve the Marine Corps Marathon route. This letter was just added to the agenda, but it is the same letter that we had last year with their new map attached. Is there a second on this amendment, on this motion? Commissioner Simkowitz, does anyone have any questions and would anyone like to see the map? Okay, calling the question. All those in favor? They will be pleased as punch. Motion passes. Next on the agenda is Commissioner Simkowitz. Do you have a question to call for the RSOs?
Yes, I do. I have introduced a letter. It's this supporting.
Can you call a motion, please?
Yes, I'd move to introduce the school SRO letter, and that is to support the Safe Schools and Students Amendment Act, sponsored by Council Members Trayon White, Brooke Pinto, Vince Gray, and Chairman Mendelson.
Is there a second?
And before I get to that, I want to read one thing.
The motion, there's no motion on the floor. It has not gotten a second.
But
concludes.
I haven't finished what I was saying. It's also supported by
Commissioner Simkowitz, in order for you to talk about the issue, you have to have a second. You do not have a second, so we're moving on.
Is it my understanding that people don't care about SROs?
No, it means we're not discussing it at this meeting, is what it means. Brad, could you please tell us what the next item on the agenda is? Because I don't have that portion of our agenda, but we are moving on to commission business. I believe
Commissioner Elkins's oral testimony for the zoning commission.
Commissioner Elkins, please take it away.
Well, I'm in charge of boring topics. And this boring topic has to do with when the zoning commission and the BZA, the Board of Zoning Adjustment, gives ANCs notice of when something is pending before their body, so that we have time to consider whether we have any concerns about it. And if so, what to advise these two bodies in a timely fashion so that they actually hear our comments. And in fact, we can even testify in front of their commission. They have rules that you have to submit your comments 7 days ahead of time if you want to testify. So boring as it is, to their credit, the zoning commission is undertaking major changes to their rules, and the Office of Attorney General has submitted at the last minute some very strong recommendations that would give us even more time for consideration, and not just sort of have someone come in front of us and say, well, we're gonna send in a proposal and we'll tell you later what it is, but instead that they would need to come and tell us the details of it. So there was a hearing scheduled for Monday, and I was going to testify based on a resolution passed in September of last year. They postponed the hearing in order to consider these comments from the Office of Attorney General, which came in late. And so actually I did not testify, but I did send in my comments, and I think it would be helpful if this commission were to endorse those comments. If you feel comfortable with them, they basically address this issue of giving us more time. And then I would like to have this come back before this commission, before the June 12th hearing, and maybe we will have more comments about this, because I think there's a movement underway to give us much more respect and time. And I think maybe we could be even more forceful than we were in September. So for today, though, Madam Chairman, I move that you approve a letter that sends to the Zoning Commission a endorsement of my written testimony, which I distributed to you and put on the website, which would then afford those comments a great weight. And I'm looking for—
Second.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I second that. Discussion? Commissioner Nowak.
I just want to commend and thank Commissioner Elkins for his work on this matter and his testimony on a very dry subject was actually quite interesting, as well as, well researched and framed as always. So thank you for your work on this.
I wholeheartedly concur, because the issues, particularly with the length of time they give the ANCs, it will kneecap us. And I feel like you've saved every ANC in the city with this testimony, and I really hope they take it to heart. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of sending this letter? All right, it's unanimous. I just found my agenda. I think that the next one is the QFR approval.
Yes, Brad is going to share that. As my commissioner colleagues will remember, each quarter, this body must vote upon the quarterly financial report, which you now see. This was also distributed earlier in the week. I don't think any of the expenses here would come as any surprise to people. The largest item this past quarter was the purchase of the OWL system, which is for our hybrid meetings. We also have our personnel for both our administrator and our transcription services as well as our new meeting room expense. Those are some of the highlights from the quarter. Any questions on this report?
Can you make a motion to approve?
So
Do
moved.
we do need to approve this. All right.
Yeah.
Second, all those in favor? Unanimous. Next up is the approval of minutes, and point of order, could someone please remind me, I believe we need to approve the minutes from March and the minutes from the special meeting.
Yes, that's correct.
I am going to make a motion that we approve these together. Do I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the special meeting and the March meeting minutes? Passes unanimously. Next up is treasurer's report.
I think we've covered that through we've covered it by the QFR.
Okay. And our next meeting is going to be on Wednesday, May 3rd. We're back to Wednesdays for the rest of the year.
And Madam Chairman.
If there's nothing, yes, go ahead, Commissioner Elkins.
I believe your plan at this point, I mean, subject to change, is that it would be a hybrid meeting. Is that correct? At
yes,
Washington.
Yes, thank you. So this will be our first meeting since COVID where the public will be able to be in person, but we have been working very hard, and we're going to get it right to have people also participate at home. So we hope if you can make it that you come, and if you prefer to be at home, that it is a valuable experience for you there, and we're going to work very hard to make that happen. And that first meeting will be on May 3rd. Commissioner Elkins?
I think maybe we need to give some fairly detailed instructions on the website about how to get to the meeting room. It's a new meeting room for everybody, so we will need to tell people it is at the Mount Vernon, George Washington campus, and it's a beautiful room. So you should come.
Yeah, it's got great acoustics, and we can fit 100 people in there. Without anything else, I move to adjourn this meeting.
Happy Passover, happy Easter, Ramadan Mubarak, whatever it is you celebrate, enjoy the holidays.
Thank you. Is there a second for my motion?
Second.
Commissioner Joseph. Okay. Discussion.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Have a good night.
All those ready to adjourn. Thank you all. Thank you everyone who stayed on very much.